a double dose of the Duke Devils. Yes, it is a tongue twister, but yes, it is also true. Syracuse and Duke playing on Friday in the NCAA tournament for basketball, but there's also a lacrosse game to be played between these two ACC rivals. Welcome inside the CitrusTV studios for this web edition of Cuse Countdown. Alongside Karl, Moeglein, and Jackson Ajello, I'm Raucci, and we're here to break down that lacrosse matchup. But guys, before we get to the matchup, let's talk about maybe the most important matchup of the weekend. It's a matchup of the mustaches. Justin Gutterding, one of the best players on this Duke lacrosse team, we'll get to him a little bit later, has a sweet stash, or had a sweet stash, I should say. We'll get into that as well. And then, of course, Tyler Lydon a couple of years ago with Rico, the playoff stash in that Final Four run. Karl, what's the more intriguing, who's got the more impressive mustache? It's really important. You need to answer.
Well, when I look at these two mustaches, it all comes down to which one has a purpose. And that's Tyler Lydon's stash. That's Rico. It was for something. It was for that playoff run. And as JD alluded to, you know how Gutterding got rid of his mustache? His girlfriend asked him to get rid of it. Asked him to get rid of that sweet stash. It just cannot have meant that much to him if he was willing to get rid of it that easily.
Can't let her dominate you like that, right, Karl? I mean, come on. Tyler Lydon's stash, definitely more impressive, and the reason is because he kept it. He kept it for that whole run. He kept Rico. Yes, Justin Gutterding's was more impressive from the manliness standpoint. It was thicker. It was luscious. I'll give him that. But he didn't keep it. He got rid of it before his time was done. Tyler Lydon, Rico, he stayed.
Rico, though, aesthetically pretty terrible. You know who's not been so good either? The Syracuse Lacrosse team, just 3-3 through its first 6 games. And that's the worst start since 2007. Guys, what the heck is going on with the Orange?
Well, honestly, I think it kind of could be expected. I know there's always hype around Syracuse Lacrosse. I understand this is disappointing. But so many players were lost from a year ago. You talked about Salcido, you talked about Mariano. Really, the list goes on. And this new core is coming in. And yes, the youth is showing, but that doesn't mean this team doesn't have talent. It means that it's a rocky start, and it means that they can build on it into the future.
And a big reason with that youth is the turnovers, and that's been a big reason why Syracuse has struggled so far. You see the clips right now from this Rutgers game. Syracuse had 22 turnovers in that game. That's unacceptable. You can't do that. That youth needs to mature going forward and take care of the ball. You need to value the ball. Key in most sports, especially lacrosse.
Youth, turnovers, a whole host of issues for this Syracuse lacrosse team so far this season. And guys, I hate to tell you, it doesn't really get much easier against Duke, the number 3 team in the country. Karl, what's the key? What's your key to the game for Syracuse to pull this upset and get back on the right track?
Well, for me, it comes to sliding to Justin Gutterding. What does that mean? It means there always has to be another guy there. They always need to know where he is on the field. At the end of the day, they cannot allow him to score unassisted. Against Cleveland State this past weekend, 4 of his 5 goals were unassisted. He made his own opportunities. However, when Duke lost its only game of the year against Penn, he scored twice, just once unassisted. They have to limit his opportunities and limit his dangerous ability to attack. He leads this Duke team by a mile in points. If you shut him down, you shut down this entire Duke offense.
Definitely a man to look out for with that many points for this team. But what I need to see from Syracuse is I need to see this team stop the snowball effect. What has been going on so far this season? This team has gotten out to large deficits. They've let teams go on runs. They've let things build. They've let the other teams keep going, like you saw against Rutgers when they went on that run and put Syracuse away. The Orange couldn't quite come back. Same thing against Albany. Same thing against Hopkins. Look, the snow's thawing outside. It's getting a little warmer, right? This team needs to start stopping those runs from keeping going. And what happens? You need more leadership. You need to get older, more experienced. You see that youth. They're not ready to hit that big goal to end the run. They need to do that going forward. It's getting warmer out. This team needs to heat up, right?
Well, they might heat up, but again, it's the number 3 team in the country in Duke. The snow is melting, but is it melting enough for Syracuse to pick up a win and go over 500? Jackson, can Syracuse beat Duke?
I think the Orange can. I'm going with Syracuse 12-11 in this game, and part of the reason for that is I think this Syracuse team will be able to mature a little bit more. I think you've seen some signs, some flashes that this team has been able to score at different points this season. The problem is they've just been down by too much, frankly, to come back. The offense has started to press. I think this team will be able to look. Gutterding, as you mentioned, great player, but he's the majority of the team's offense. If Syracuse can slow down Gutterding, get a footing in this game, just keep it close for a while. You saw the team could step up and score when it counted against Virginia. The key is that game was close. The Orange has to stay in the game.
Well, I'm not as confident as you are, Jackson. I've got Duke winning this one, and by a score of 13-10. And part of the reason is where it's being played, down in Durham. Duke hasn't lost a home game in the regular season since the first home game of last season. Quite the run they've had down there. Such a tough team to beat, and especially with a guy like Gutterding, one of the best attacks in the country, it's going to be hard for Syracuse to overcome that come this weekend.
A split panel, and don't worry, I'm watching who you guys are picking. I'm keeping tally, trying to figure out who's going to win Analyst of the Year for this team. I'm not even sure who it's going to be yet, but it's going to be close, I think. That'll do it for us here on Cuse Countdown, this web edition of Cuse Countdown. For Karl, Moeglein, and Jackson Ajello, I'm JD Raucci saying so long, Syracuse.